Hi everyone, let's talk about Fallout. So, I am a big fan of the video games. I am a relative newcomer. I wasn't there for the first two, but the console Bethesda games anyway. 3 and 4, and New Vegas, which let's face it was the best, wasn't it? It wasn't drab, and it was all gambling, and you could go through it without killing anybody if you want to, which was more similar to the original ones as I played later. And it had Matthew Perry in it, which is what everyone wants from a video game, isn't it? But I'm getting distracted. So the world of Fallout, I am a big fan of, and I have spent countless hours exploring various side quests and the vast maps of those games and getting really immersed into the world. They are single player experiences designed for you to just go out and do whatever you like, see where your mood takes you and what you find in the wasteland. This is obviously gonna make some big changes to that, making it a multiplayer experience, whatever it does with it. But yeah, the competitive experience. So I'll start out that I'm not expecting some kind of big complex game from this. I am generally a fan of the medium to heavy Euro board game side of things, the trading in the Mediterranean, the economic engines, things like that. I didn't come to that expecting. I didn't come to Fallout expecting that. I came expecting maybe a more run and gun dice rolling experience. So that's not what. That's not what kind of let me down on Fallout. I think that there are a lot of things in this board game that are a missed opportunity compared to what could be done with Fallout. And I know that there's another Fallout game in the works from a different company that's a miniatures combat game. That's absolutely outside my range of interests. But yeah, this board game. So let's focus on the good first. So the huge deck of encounters, the card library, works really well. I think it's telling stories that sometimes are from the games themselves, or sometimes are very much inspired by things that happened in the games or the kind of situations that you might encounter. As the Fallout 4, the Institute and people being replaced by synths was a really big part of the story. So seeing those kind of stories emerge and you being able to have some kind of influence on them is really nice. And the way that it's done is good as well. It's a kind of a one of the strange things that happens when you make this multiplayer. You have to make all of the quests available to everybody. And so we had the thing where, I went to the wasteland and they were looking for someone idolized because Marty had become idolized and put the card in there. It still worked, but yeah, there are some kind of strange things that are happening because we are all having the same quest at the same time. You obviously couldn't have the main quests, separated by things, but we are kind of all on the same side quests and same extra things that we found as well. That's not a big issue, but yeah, I generally like the way this has been done. You will usually find shopping opportunities in the settlement cards, which we didn't go through as much as the wasteland cards, but we kept getting quests to go to wastelands and kept uncovering wastelands first. The map is different depending on the scenario that you have. Some are based in the Fallout 4 universe, or there are other sides to the ones that didn't start out face down. There are other sides to all of those that will have another Fallout experience on there. It's the Capital Wasteland, I believe, from 3. There's some variety in the map's going to be laid out differently, and you might be playing a completely different thing. But you'll start with different stories as well that will send you in different directions. The other side of this doesn't just tell you the layout; it tells you that you start with a particular card that will send you down a particular story path. But there are all of these side things happening at the same time as well that are triggered by these starting encounter cards in the settlements and wastelands. Taking you down the different paths is cool, even though we are sharing that path. Whatever one person chooses, everyone is going down it as well. The thing that's kind of disappoints me is that it kind of has to be this way because of the nature of the competitive game and the scenarios, the scenario route that they went for. It's kind of like playing one of the Fallout video games and going through this story and making these choices for an hour and a half, something like that, and then you turn off the console and don't save your game, and next time we'll start again. And yeah, it's not exactly like that. There's obviously it's a much longer experience playing the video game, but yeah, the fact that all of this gets reset to the exact same. There's not that many of these starting scenarios. They will send you down different paths if you make different decisions, or if different ones come up first that have chains on there. There will be different things in based on the scenario that you have, but just for the fact that when we play the Commonwealth again, we are going to have the same basic story of the Railroad versus the Institute. That's fine, but they trigger the same main side quests that could go in different directions again. But if we see the same things come out of here, then we know that, oh, that's going to be this, so shall we just choose this option that isn't as good for us to try and see something different? There is a lot in here. I'm not criticizing the actual story deck. It's quite a substantial deck of different stories that are, they're well written. They give you a fair bit of choice through it, and most of all, they do capture the feel of the Fallout universe. They've got the kind of situations you would find in there, and they generally capture the sense of humor of the Fallout world as well. But yeah, I do. It would call for a different game, but yeah, I do think it's a shame that we just reset back to this same point every time, with slight differences. And the other major problem that we have had with the game so far is the scoring of it, the agenda deck, the influence cards. So for a competitive game, you start off with a random one of these, which we've played it a few times now, but in our first game, I got the one that wanted the Railroad to win, and Rach got the one that wanted the Institute to win. So perfect. We were at odds with each other. We didn't know that, but we were both trying to kind of wrestle the story in different directions, which I think is the intention, because in the playthrough was kind of let down a little bit by the fact that I didn't have a direction I wanted to go. I didn't know that Marty needed it to go in the shield direction, but I was kind of happy to let it go that way. And then I drew the card that meant that I wanted to go that way as well. The first game we played, so we had a different one, and then I drew the one that Rachel had, so I didn't care at all. I was happy for it to go either way because I had agenda cards for both of the sides. And then it was just kind of, oh, well, this one wants me to have a load of money. I haven't got a load of money. Hopefully I'll find some later. And the whole thing seemed meaningless. There was a point kind of as we were wrestling through these, we were wrestling early on and kind of maybe started to have an inkling that we were, working for different sides here. But then as soon as that kind of stopped, Rach caught on and was kind of like, what's going on? Why are you helping me now? And yeah, it just kind of laid it out. Well, I've got both of them, so yeah, I don't care anymore. It's easier for me to help you because, rather than fight against it, because then I'm going to get the same points you are, as well as my other agenda cards that I'm hopefully achieving as well. I feel that it's maybe it wants you to be at odds with each other, and it wants to have this kind of semi-cooperative feel that may well be much better in a game with more players. I almost always play with 2 players, so that's the experience I am talking from here. I think with more players, certainly it could be different because you would then maybe form factions with each other if it wouldn't necessarily need to be even ones. That's kind of why it has the trading stuff between each other. If I have the Institute card and I can see that you're really, really pushing the Institute and no one else is, well, I've kind of got an idea that we're allies. So if you are in trouble or you're about to achieve something that's really going to help me as well, then maybe I would want to trade things with you. Obviously, in a 2-player game, that's never ever going to happen, which is inherent to trading in 2-player games anyway. But I think that the semi-cooperative thing that it feels to me like it wants to go for needs more players, absolutely. And yeah, in the solo version of the game, it doesn't matter. The other thing as well that kind of puts a damper on the competitive nature of it was that in that first game, so we went on, and I think Rach ended up getting one for the other faction and all of this stuff. When we finally ended the game, by the whichever faction it was reaching the bottom of the thing. That ends the game, and if neither of you have reached the goal, you both lose, which isn't a great way to end the game in a competitive game, really. But more importantly, if you've managed to reach 10, which I did, because the influence moving gave me ended the game and gave me the 10th influence that I need. Guess what? Rach got the 10th influence she needed as well, and you just win by going over the threshold. So that's completely fine. We aren't, that competitive players, and I didn't really care about that happening at all. I was fine with that. But it really kind of, it really pours water on the competitive aspect of the game that we just both won, and hope you had fun, because that's just it now. We if we'd have lost, it would have been the same feeling if we'd have both lost. I found myself, we've maybe made the game go on a little bit longer for each other, because me in particular, I like to just roam around, try and find more of these stories. When we had the vault, finding the Vault 84, I was really focused on trying to find that and trying to get the story going and see more of these side quests. Kind of how I'd be playing Fallout anyway. You unlock a chain of side quests. I'm going down that side quest until it ends. We aren't seeing the main quest for a long, long time. I hope the world's going to be okay without me, because we are seeing what's in this little shack. But yeah, that's kind of been my focus, and in that way, it's another thing that's not felt competitive, because I haven't really. I kind of feel that the agenda system, I'm kind of okay just going with the flow. I don't care if I win this game at all. Which, yeah, it's just the way this system is. It made me just think, and the fact that the story is really good, and I want to see as much of it as possible, because these chains that we're going down, they're all going to get reset at the end of this game. So I think all of these things working together, put dampers on that aspect. I know that people have come up with variants to fix that, and some people have come up with cooperative variants. I haven't tried any of that myself, because I'd like to. This video is all about what you would get if you bought this in a shop, but maybe they would be worth trying. Now, the next thing I'm going to say, maybe I'll get shouted down for this, but because I'm a big lover of cooperative games, I would have loved to have seen a lot of the ideas that are brought in this game in a cooperative game. Maybe that is just because that's a type that I really like, but maybe it's because I found the competitive aspect so lacking in it. To me, it would make more sense that we were all on these same quests and going down these things. You would have to do substantial changes to, get rid of the system that we're trying to advance one faction over another. Although you have that choice in a single player game, I would just love to have a bigger experience that's carrying over multiple things. Just you didn't need to have all of the different scenarios and different 4 and 3 on different sides of the map tiles. I would have loved to just focus on more of this, expanded in expansions that just add little decks of cards in the future to the same way that they do with the video game. Maybe I've realised that's maybe too much of an undertaking to be writing new story or anything like that, or it would have been disappointing to just replicate the Fallout 4 story, for example, in a board game. People wouldn't really want that, because you can just go and play the video game, can't you? I feel that would have been something really. That would have been kind of a dream of ours. Maybe that's why I would prefer it like that. If for me in particular, to be playing a Fallout board game, not Legacy or anything like that, but a campaign, so games that carry on, or characters that we have worked to maybe customize. And that's another kind of downside for me as well. I can maybe speak a bit longer about this than most board games I talk about, because I really like this world and really wanted to see it replicated in cardboard. The combat is, I was expecting something that was just dice. It is very, very shallow, and it is just based on roll these dice, hope that you don't get hit too much, hope that you hit the right body parts. Maybe you'll get some rerolls if you've got the right tokens. So much of Fallout, you can just play these Fallout video games as the third person shooter games, or first person shooter if you want to change your camera angle. But you can just play them like that, and they are run and gun games, and maybe that's more type that it's kind to replicate, but you can go into VATS mode in the video games, which freezes the video game and gives you percentages of body parts to hit that might do more damage to particular enemies. And people have criticised that part of the video game as well, but let's not get into that. So yeah, maybe the combat is good at replicating the run and gun attitude if you played the video games like that. The leveling up though is it's a cool little system that, you know, you kill the enemy. The enemies aren't very different at all. They've got different pictures on them, and they've got seemingly random symbols that, oh, this one's got a gun, this one hasn't got a gun. Yeah, they could be anything really, couldn't they? They're different levels, so some are scarier, and it suits, you know, super mutants are higher levels, deathclaws are higher levels. That suits it all. But yeah, they could all be the same picture for all of the difference that it makes. They all just move one space towards you when they get activated, and maybe you'll have to attack them at some point. Yeah, I think that's a bit of a letdown because, yeah, there's a lot of different stuff in Fallout. I don't know how you would replicate it as well. I'm just raising issues without having any solutions. But aside from that, the actual leveling up system of just grab 2 of these letters. If you want to pick a different letter, then cool, you've got more opportunities for rerolls, for skill tests and things. If not, then you get a perk card that you can choose from that are kind of like the skill trees in Fallout. It just seems another, you know, it's another random aspect to something that is really considered and, yeah, is part of a huge tech tree in the video game form. It's something that helps make your character unique and works towards your strengths in the game. In the board game, I suppose it's over too quickly to be worrying anything about that. You know, that's more for my dream campaign version of the game, isn't it? But yeah, it's just another. It's just another random. This doesn't really mean much. Let's just use. You know, special is a cool thing from the video game that customizes your character. Let's try and bring it in some way. It feels it doesn't feel like, yeah, a thing where I'm customizing my character or doing anything other than, okay, there's a skill test out that needs an A. Oh, I haven't got an A, maybe I'll pick an A. Or I started out with this weapon that wants an S. I'll take an S. It doesn't really mean much to me. Whereas all of those points and everything are a much more considered thing in the video game. It is, yeah. It's a fairly light experience. It's a fairly light translation of the video game into a board game. It's definitely got good parts. It's not a bad experience. I think that maybe I am just annoyed by certain things more because of the love that I have for all of the time that I spent playing those video games and what the potential of things that could happen in this. And this could get expanded and changed and things. I just don't know if, yeah, I couldn't see us coming back constantly to keep playing these things. Even though there's different scenarios and things, I do feel like it has overall been a bit of a letdown. And there is potential for this, I think, with changes, maybe, yeah, take it all away and make one that's perfect for me. I'm not saying that, it's just not going to be one for us, I don't think. I've talked for ages and ages and ages about this. I hope this isn't too much longer than a normal video. But yeah, if you just want to play a kind of, it's not a really light game, but yeah, if you just want to play a game where you're rolling dice, roaming around locations you might have seen in the video game, maybe picking up cards with pictures you might have seen in the video game, running into scenarios you might have remembered from the video game, it's got that element to it. It's definitely got the sense of humour, and it's got the license, hasn't it? So it's got the right artwork. But just, I think if you stripped that away from it and it didn't have that, it was an original IP or something like that, then I probably wouldn't have had interest in it in the first place. But I think that is kind of the thread that is hanging on by. Wanting to see more Fallout story was the thing that kept me involved in it, because it certainly wasn't trying to win the game in any way, because I think that's the weakest part of it. But yeah, me going through all of these story chains and then resetting back to the beginning every time is a disappointment for even that part that I found really enjoyable. But I think I'm at danger of repeating myself or sounding too negative about the game because again, it's its plus points, but I think it could have been a lot more. So that is Fallout, everybody. But instead of listening to me ramble on and on and on about things, the playthrough is there. You hopefully have seen that and already decided whether it would be one for you. I'll see you for the next game, everyone. Bye.